Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Friday, January 27th, 2023. And in today's video, we're going to be covering the news. It's kind of crazy. We're already a month into the new year. Way back in, I think it was mid to late October, I had kind of talked about how the economy was going to crash, but at the time I said, I think it's going to hold off until after the midterms. The economy was being propped up. We changed the definition of what a recession is. Joe Biden was releasing oil from the strategic oil reserves, trying to bring down gas prices leading up to midterms. He was then trying to, bribe or extort the Saudis into not cutting oil production. And then we kind of made it through the midterms, but, kind of a crash didn't really happen because at that point we were in the holiday season. So a lot of people wanted to have a good Christmas. We'll worry about the economy. We'll worry about our personal finances after the holidays. So the holidays came to an end and we're a couple weeks into the new year. And things continue to get worse. Things continue to slide. We continue to see bad earnings from companies. We continue to see a lot of layoffs. And we continue to see a lot of bad news. Despite that, the Dow closed up 200 points yesterday. S&P 500 and NASDAQ up slightly, and most major cryptocurrencies were down, about 2% yesterday. 2 to 3% yesterday. Without further ado, let's just kind of jump into the news today. So, jobless claims came out yesterday, 186,000 jobless claims. The numbers are likely being manipulated. That's actually pretty low, but that actually allows the Fed to continue hiking rates, which is what they said they plan on doing through 2023. And they said well through 2024, even once they stop hiking rates, they're going to keep these rates elevated. We heard from Hasbro. Hasbro warns of a weak holiday quarter. They cut 15% of their workforce, so they cut another 1,000 employees. Remember how we were hearing about how last year was the biggest Black Friday of all time, record Black Friday numbers? It was fantastic. At the time, I kind of called BS on it. I said, the only reason that sales look good is because everything costs so much more. I think we were told Black Friday sales or holiday sales were up about 2%. When you consider best case scenario, inflation is 7 or 9%. In reality, we know it's probably double or triple that. But if the same number of people went out and bought the same number of things, you would expect the Black Friday and the holiday sales numbers to be at least up 7 to 9%, likely even higher than that. But we got 2%. So it was actually a decline. But we were sold this idea that it was the greatest holiday shopping season of all time. And we continue to see negative earnings and negative earnings and negative earnings come from more and more companies. So it turns out that it wasn't the best holiday shopping season of all time. Tech layoffs continue. A company called SAP, I believe it's a German software company, cut 3,000 jobs. That's 2.5% of their workforce, and their profits fell 68% this past year. Confluent, 221 jobs lost. IBM, 3,900 jobs lost, and Shutterfly, I believe they sell I believe that's one of those companies where you can store photos and get your photos printed. They laid off 360 workers. I think this next stat really shows you where the economy is. The worldwide shipments of smartphones declined 18.3%, the largest ever in a quarter. Apple was down 15%, Samsung was down 15.6%, and I'm not familiar with this company, but it's Exomi, down 26.3%. I'm guessing that's a Chinese smartphone company. Think about how addicted we are to our phones. Go to a restaurant, look at people driving in their car. Everybody is on their smartphone. We're addicted to smartphones. Everybody has to have the new hottest cell phone every year. And the fact that smartphone sales are down shows that people are cutting back and people aren't spending. It's kind of funny. My cell phone I got the Samsung S9. My cell phone has gotten to the point where like half my screen is pink. It doesn't really bother me. It's just like a little bit of a shade of pink. But now it's gotten bad to where when I plug a charging port in it, it has to be like perfectly aligned or it won't take a charge. So normally I wind up having to use these charging pads. So I think I'm just finally at the point of needing a new cell phone, but I think I've had this one for 3 or 4 years. Personally, I used to like it when the cell phone companies subsidized your phone. So as long as you agreed to a 2-year contract, and as long as you didn't need to have the new best phone every year, you get an $800 phone, $1,000 phone, and it'd cost you $50 or $99 as long as you agreed to sign up for a contract. Now, they can put you on a payment plan, but at the end of the day, you're going to be paying the full price for that phone, whether it be $1,000, $1,200, $1,500. I really like how it used to be better. We got a Fox Business story. New home sales rose for the third straight month. sounds like good news, right? The media is trying to push this as good news. What they don't tell you is these home sales rising for the third straight month. They're still down 26.6% year over year. So they're still way down from last year. Another thing they aren't telling you is that this includes homes under contract. Well, another story we've been talking about in some recent videos is how KB Homes recently announced that 68% of all homes that they're building, people wind up backing out of and don't wind up completing the purchase, either because they can't qualify or they don't like the interest rates. So yeah, new home sales are up for the third straight month, but how many of these homes are new homes under contract? And potentially 3/4 of those are going to wind up falling through and not being sold. So really the only people telling you to buy homes right now are realtors and people in the mortgage industry. We recently heard that Chipotle is hiring 15,000 workers in preparation for burrito season. I didn't know burrito season was a thing. But that's good news, guys. Everybody who lost their high-paying tech jobs can now go get a job making burritos because Chipotle is hiring 15,000 people. We had talked about this stat a couple weeks ago, but I think it was back in November or December. We lost 1,000 full-time jobs. We picked up 679,000 restaurant jobs, service sector jobs, bartender jobs, barista jobs. We don't make anything. All we do is buy and consume things, and we buy and consume these things with money that we don't even have. We talked about the other day, it was 68% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. It is now 74% of people who are living paycheck to paycheck. Yet the Dow closed up 200 points yesterday. The market continues to go up. 68% of people couldn't cover living expenses even for a single month if they lost their job. I think kind of the biggest lesson here, 2023, it could be fine, could be a nothing burger, but it could be ugly. If you were to lose your job today, if you walked into the office and they said, sorry, Bill, but we got to let you go, how long would you be able to make it without a paycheck? Make sure you build up an emergency fund. I know Dave Ramsey talks about that minimum $1,000. $1,000 isn't going to cut it. You're going to want 6 months, ideally a year of living expenses. And, don't go out and buy that new cell phone, cancel the cable. Make sure you build up an emergency fund. Another interesting stat, 72% of Americans say their wages are falling behind the cost of living. And I talk to people who are experiencing this every day, right? These aren't people who are frivolously spending. These are people who are pretty frugal, but inflation is eating away at them. And for a while, they were able to scrape by. At this point, every month they're having to put $100, $200, $300 on the credit card, and things aren't getting any better. I saw this the other day. McDonald's, somebody was complaining online. McDonald's is now charging $3 for a hash brown. This isn't in every market. I guess hash browns range from $1 to like $2.99. But in some markets, in some more expensive cities, you're going to pay $3 for a hash brown. Wasn't it just a couple years ago? I feel like you probably get like 2 hash browns for $1. Many Americans are paying 40 to 50% of their incomes towards rent or a mortgage. How is this sustainable? Saw another interesting article yesterday. 2/3 of Americans aren't getting enough exercise. I forget what government organization it is, but they recommend you get 150 minutes of aerobic exercise every week. That winds up working out to about 20 minutes per day. One thing I'd encourage you guys to do, I know not everybody likes going for a run. I know not everybody likes going to the gym or lifting weights, but I'd encourage everybody, join some type of rec league at your park district. Join some type of intramural sports league. The past year, ever since everything's kind of opened back up, I've been doing a lot of different leagues. I was playing in a kickball league, one regular kickball league, and one cup in hand kickball league where you actually have to play with like a red Solo cup of beer in your hand. I got into a pickleball league. That's a lot of fun. Last night I had I'm in a volleyball league. And then there's kind of a cool bar near me that has indoor sand volleyball, and you can get drinks between games. You can order wings and things like that. But a lot of times I'll go up Friday or Saturday nights, and they kind of got these pickup tournaments of sand volleyball. And if you're not somebody who likes to run, if you're not somebody who likes to go to the gym, it's actually a lot. I grew up playing sports. I kind of miss the competition. I miss being on a team. I miss kind of having those nerves before a game. And, joining some type of rec league or intramural league, it's a great, fun way to get some exercise, to participate in athletics again. So I would definitely encourage you guys to check out your local park district, whatever your sport is. They got adult hockey leagues, baseball, softball, whatever it is that's your thing. But 2/3 of Americans aren't getting enough exercise, so make sure you are. Let's see, what stat do we have here? Okay, so the IRS is going to be making everybody answer a new question on this year's taxes. The question is, at any time during 2022, did you A, receive as a reward an award or a payment for property or services, or B, sell, exchange, gift, or otherwise dispose of a digital asset or financial interest in a digital asset? So previously, the IRS would ask if you owned or traded any virtual currencies. I think probably likely because of the rise in the popularity of NFTs, they've now changed the word virtual currency to digital asset. Let's see, Japan is subsidizing healthcare. Japan has a crisis where nobody's having babies. They don't have enough young people, and their society is basically going to collapse in on itself. The U.S. is in danger of facing that same thing. I think by 2030, we're expecting 45% of women to not be having kids. And, I was talking to a family member of mine who's got 2 babies, and she was looking into daycare. And I think for one of her kids going to daycare, I think the other one, her mom was going to take care of. But for one of her kids going to daycare, it was going to be $2,300 a month. I at my volleyball game last night, I was talking to another family member of mine who's on my team. And he just put his daughter in daycare, and I think he said one of these daycares was quoting him $2,500 a month. I think he wound up finding one for $15,000. But people just can't afford to have kids. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of years the U.S. is having to kind of subsidize or pay for people to be able to have kids, pay for people's daycare, because it's almost not even worth working when you're having to pay $2,300 a month for childcare, and that's for one kid. Let's see, this is earnings week. We're seeing a lot of bad earnings thus far. Intel stock craters after shockingly bad earnings and catastrophic guidance, so things aren't going to be getting better. Intel has shat the bed for the last 9 of 10 earnings reports. And here's one kind of thing that I've been kind of looking for. Stock market is not doing well. And 2023 isn't looking like a good year. But one thing that I've noticed is when we get these really, really public articles about companies doing poorly, I oftentimes think that the market overreacts. So, a few weeks back, it may have even been a month or two back, Facebook stock tanked to like $88. To me, it seemed like an overreaction. I wound up buying in, and the stock quickly recovered to like $109. Coinbase, the media was kind of crapping on Coinbase for a while. Their stock dropped to, low 40s. Wound up picking up a bunch of that, and it quickly rebounded to like $55. So 2 companies that I was looking at are potentially Intel, and then also 3M reported some really bad earnings the other day. Was really being heavily pounded on in the media. They pay a decent dividend. I believe it's over 5%. So kind of one of my strategies for 2023 is kind of looking for when the media starts beating up on a certain company, looking for markets to kind of overreact and drive the price of that stock down, and then picking it up, especially if it's a dividend-paying stock. Bed Bath & Beyond stock craters after they received a default notice from JP Morgan. The stock cratered 22% yesterday. And I thought this was interesting. BuzzFeed shares jumped after it was announced that Meta pays them millions of dollars to create content for Facebook and Instagram. The stock was up 135% yesterday. They fired 12% of their staff last month. And lately, we've been talking a lot about AI art, sites like ChatGPT. Apparently, BuzzFeed plans on using AI instead of writers to make, BuzzFeed doesn't put out great articles. They normally steal content from other people, or they put together these like quizzes, analytical style articles, which is something AI can definitely do. So BuzzFeed is getting rid of their, I wouldn't even call them journalists, we'll call them employees, and they're going to be using AI to create a lot of their content. We haven't really heard anything about Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX in a while. Lawyers are going to be questioning FBF's parents about their wealth and how much of their wealth comes from their son. They've also been asked to return the deed to their Bahamas beachfront mansion. And it's also come out that JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are both creditors of FTX. Saw another article on Zero Hedge yesterday. Denmark plans mandatory military service for women as NATO deepens their support for Ukraine. I guess men are required to serve in the Denmark military, but women have always been voluntary. Women are going to be conscripted. Let's see. I thought this was interesting. I saw a discussion online the other day. So why is Florida real estate blowing up? Why do prices in Florida continue going up? I thought this was kind of an interesting analysis of this. So here's what somebody, I forget who I was listening to, but here's what they said. They said, for people on the East Coast, if you're from New York, if you're from New Jersey, if you're from Boston, New England, you really only have one option if you're looking to move somewhere else, looking to move somewhere cooler, looking to move somewhere warmer. Your number one option is, your only option is Florida. A lot of people even refer to South Florida and Miami as the, how many boroughs does New York have? I think New York has 5 boroughs. So people refer to South Florida as the 6th borough because there's so many people from New York there. But if you're on the West Coast, if you're from California, what are your options for places that are cooler and cheaper than California? You got Vegas. You got the entire state of Washington, right? Like Washington's a pretty cool state. You have Oregon. You have Idaho. You have Colorado. You have Arizona. People from California can kind of sparse out between, 4, 5, 6 different states. If you're from the East Coast and you don't want to move too far away from home, right? Like I'm looking at getting out of Illinois and I'm looking at Florida. And one of the things that's appealing to me about Florida is like I could hop in the car and one day of driving, I could be back home. If like an emergency came up, my grandparents passed away, something like that. If I'm in California, it's a much bigger headache to get back home, right? Like it's like a 3-day drive or I have to grab a flight. So I think a lot of people on the East Coast, their only option is to move to Florida. So you just have a lot more people being funneled into one area. Let's see. Another interesting thing, if you talk to a realtor, realtors are the only ones who are kind of positive on the housing market right now. But even most realtors are saying 2023 is going to be flat, but 2024 and 2025 are going to be great years. If realtors are starting to say that 2023 is going to be a flat year, that means it's going to be a down year and likely down pretty bad. Let's see here. Okay, so how does a real estate crash happen? We're basically at a stalemate. Buyers don't want to buy at these prices and at these interest rates. Sellers don't want to drop their prices. So prices aren't going to fall until sellers have to sell or are forced to sell. And at that point, buyers aren't going to stop buying until sellers continue dropping their price to a point when buyers see it as being attractive. Goldman Sachs came out yesterday or in the past couple days and said 4 cities will suffer 2008-like home crashes due to skyrocketing interest rates. The 4 cities they said were San Jose, San Diego, Austin, and Phoenix. They said these cities will see the most dramatic decreases, over 25% in 2023. I'm surprised that like Boise, Idaho, and some other cities like that weren't mentioned. San Jose, San Diego, Austin, and Phoenix are all inflated, but at least these cities have industry, right? They have tech jobs, they have high-paying jobs. Like what does Boise, Idaho really have to justify these high housing prices? Let's see. Toyota's CEO is stepping down. He'll be replaced by the chief branding officer, and Toyota plans on fully remodeling the automaker and accelerating the production of electrified cars. And then kind of the last video for today, and we'll have to kind of be careful about what we, last story of the day, we'll have to kind of be careful about what we say here. Jordan Walker, the director of research and development at a certain pharmaceutical company, was caught up in a Project V sting. He was caught on, we talked about this in yesterday's video, he was caught on video admitting to a bunch of very bad things, but one of these things was that this pharmaceutical company in question was talking about, I'm trying to think how we can say this and kind of get through YouTube, was talking about manipulating the beer cough in an LAB, so that they could then roll out solutions to that problem. So basically, they were talking about creating a problem that likely would have cost thousands of lives so that they could roll out a solution to this problem they created and then profit from it. Well, another video wound up coming out yesterday, and the first part of the video we saw was kind of the undercover sting of this guy talking. The video that was released yesterday was essentially this guy being called out by James O'Keefe. And I highly encourage you guys to watch the video. It was very comical. You literally saw this guy realize that his life was over right in front of his face. Now, let's say right at the outstart of this, Project V, they always make these videos and say, oh my gosh, this is going to break the internet. This is going to be the best thing ever. And more often than not, it winds up being a nothing burger. These videos are also oftentimes highly edited. So I say all this to say, if this stuff winds up coming out to be true, at this point, it does look like this Jordan Walker really works for this pharmaceutical company. He was obviously caught on tape saying a lot of very bad things. And then when confronted, the guy just lost it. He starts running around his pizza restaurant, screaming at everybody. He asks the pizza restaurant to lock James O'Keefe and the film crew inside the restaurant. He then starts attacking all of them, punching them, trying to steal their iPads, trying to smash their cameras. As he's attacking them, he's screaming, "Ow, you're attacking me, my head," as he's the one doing the attacking. The pizza place is telling these people to leave, even though they're the ones that locked them inside. The whole thing is very comical. Eventually, the doors wind up getting opened. James O'Keefe and the film crew leave. And this Jordan Walker is out in the street jumping in front of cars, not even the right car, but he's jumping in front of cars trying to stop who he thinks is James O'Keefe and the film crew. It was absolutely comical. I'll try to remember to put the video in the description box below. And then we just had one last story. I'm starting to see when people get worried and when people get under stress, they start making really stupid decisions. I've seen so many I've seen so many like Reddit posts and things like that of people who bought homes in Seattle and Silicon Valley. The price of their home is now down 15%, 20, 25%. If they were to try to sell their home today, they're going to get 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 less than they bought the home for. A lot of these people have also done repairs, and people are like freaking out. They're like, do I sell the house, take the loss, and try to buy back in cheaper later? Like, people are just making very stupid decisions. And I happen to see this post. I think it just kind of highlights where the housing market is going and how much people are freaking out. So this post comes from the Seattle subreddit. It's titled, "Bought a house at peak. Nearby houses are going for $600K less than our house." Bought a house in East Side, north of Totem Lake, for $1.4 million, when currently houses there are selling for $700,000 or $800,000. Bought during the absolute freaking peak, March 2022, and the house is old, small, 1,500 square feet, and quite frankly, both of us feel trapped here. One thing that really kind of blows my mind, if you live in Texas or the Midwest or a lot of other areas, for $300,000-$400,000, you can get a McMansion that's huge, updated, granite countertops, everything's very nice. It's crazy to me that you would think rich people would want nice stuff, but you see people paying $1 million, $2 million, $3 million for a home. And when you see these homes, it's like if that house was in the Midwest, it would be $250,000. But because it's in Seattle or San Jose, it's $2 million. My cousin bought a house in Squamish or somewhere outside of Seattle. I think she paid $1.4 million, and it's just like it's like a ticky-tacky cookie cutter townhouse. No upgrades. It's all like builder stuff, and it's $1.4 million. But the person went on to say, well, the rate we got was great. It is clear we overly paid heavily, and we will never be able to sell this house. My wife is already angsty to leave and is threatening to move back home across the country to her parents since the stress of ownership has been too much. We've already spent over $20K in fixes and updates. Some updates, cabinets, a few windows and such. As a malfunctioning AC and a rotting staircase. I'm just at a complete loss. I work in tech and have a good job, but even that is on shaky footing recently. Our mortgage is for over $1 million for a freaking shack. Just need somewhere to vent. I know that I made my bed and I have to sleep in it, but I just could scream for days. I feel like a prisoner in my own home. I'll be paying off this home for a decade or longer if I waited a year to buy or earlier. We just got so enamored into buying Friendly, and we're seriously worried we would be priced out forever, making us stretch and squirm our finances to the maximum. And then he says, here are 3 similar houses to the ones we bought. And he shows the homes, and these homes, $750,000, $800,000, $850,000. And they're just, there's nothing special about them. They're 1,000 square foot ranches with torn up carpet and kind of are overall dated. But I'm seeing more and more stories like this. And this is what, in my opinion, is going to wind up causing the housing crash. You're going to get some people like this who really, they bought a home that they can afford. So far, the guy, even though he works in tech, hasn't lost his job. If they like the home, they can live there and there's not really a problem, but his wife's freaking out. She wants to move across the country. If she winds up moving across the country, this guy's going to try to save his marriage, and he's going to try to sell this house and move with his wife. They're going to wind up taking a $600,000 loss on the home, and that's if they can't even sell the house at $700,000 or $800,000. $100,000. And that's where what we talked about earlier winds up coming into play. If he wants to sell his home, and if he wants to sell it in a hurry, which is going to happen if he's chasing his wife across the country, he's going to wind up having to continue to drop the price and drop the price and drop the price until some buyer is interesting. What happens then? It winds up lowering the comp. So the next person in his neighborhood or city who wants to sell the house, they're going to be only, they're going to basically top out at where he sold because he was desperate. And then, this kind of whole trend continues. Anyhow, guys, I got to get running. That's today's video. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and opinions about everything we've discussed today. So go ahead and drop them down below and enjoy the weekend, guys. I'll catch you on the next video.